Before fear learned our names, the drum greeted the sun. Every morning, before the birds dared to speak, before smoke rose from cooking fires, before children opened their eyes to the weight of another day, the drum spoke first. It did not shout, it did not hurry, it breathed. A slow, ancient breath, older than the village paths, older than the stories carved into doorposts, older than the bones buried beneath the earth. The drum spoke, and the village remembered itself. It reminded the living that the dead were listening. It reminded the strong that strength was borrowed. It reminded the healer that her time was already being counted. But on this morning, the sun rose alone. No greeting, no answer. Only wind moving through dry leaves, like fingers searching for something misplaced. Women paused with grain in their palms. Children held their breath without knowing why. Even the dogs did not bark. Because silence, when it comes where sound has always lived, is not empty. It is a warning. At first, the people told themselves lies. They said the drum was tired. They said the leather had loosened. They said the night rain had dampened its voice. They said many things, because truth, when spoken too early, can kill hope. But silence did not leave. It sat in doorways. It followed footsteps. It leaned close when people whispered prayers. And the ancestors? They did not answer. Not in dreams, not in smoke, not in the shaking of leaves. It was as if the world had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe out. By the second sunrise without the drum, fear had learned its first name. The sickness did not scream. It learned to whisper. It came softly, like a thought you try to ignore. A cough that lingered too long. A child who slept through hunger. A man whose legs forgot their strength. The sick did not cry out. They watched. They watched the healer's hut. They watched the shrine. They watched the drum. And the drum watched back, unmoving. The sickness was patient. It did not take many at once. It took one, then waited. It let the village hope. It let them say, "It will pass." Then it took another. Breath grew shallow. Eyes sank deep. Skin lost its memory of warmth. And still, the drum did not speak. Because some silences are chosen. Mama Ise felt it before she saw it. The herbs no longer answered her hands. The chants tasted thin in her mouth. The fire listened but did not obey. She had carried the gift longer than any before her, longer than the ancestors allowed, longer than her body forgave. She had delayed this moment with sacrifice, with blood, with sleep she never reclaimed. But gifts that are not passed begin to rot, and rot always demands payment. She sat on her mat, bones aching with borrowed years, and listened to something no one else could hear, not the ancestors, the space they left behind. The gift, her voice trembled, not with fear, but with knowing. The gift is leaving me. The words did not fall to the ground. They hung in the air, heavy, waiting to be caught. The elders gathered. They spoke old words, their tongues stumbling over syllables that once came easily. They poured libations, they called names, but names spoken without permission are just noise. The drum was struck, once. The sound broke wrong, thin, pained, unfinished. A second strike. The drum tightened, as if recoiling from the hand. A third. someone screamed. Because the drum was not refusing sound, it was refusing M. The gift does not obey tradition, it obeys blood. And blood remembers what mouths forget. Ayo stood at the edge. He had learned long ago that standing too close to the shrine meant being seen, and being seen was dangerous. He felt it now, a pressure behind the ribs, a rhythm that did not belong to his heart. The drum pulsed once, not aloud, inside him. He stepped back, shook his head, because some truths, when accepted, cannot be returned. He had spent his life avoiding the gaze of spirits, avoiding dreams that felt too real, avoiding memories that were not his alone. But destiny does not chase, it waits. Mama Ise found him by sound, not sight. She reached out, fingers shaking with the weight of endings. Her grip was stronger than her body allowed, because strength, at the final moment, comes from elsewhere. Ayo. The wind stopped. The fire leaned inward. The drum answered, once. Clean, deep, certain. Ayo, the drum knows you. In that moment, the village did not rejoice. They did not cry. They understood. Because when the drum speaks again, it does not announce hope, it announces cost. And somewhere beneath the earth, the ancestors leaned closer. The silence did not break. It settled, heavy, waiting. Ayo did not move at first, because acceptance is not loud. It arrives quietly, like nightfall you see coming long before it reaches you. He felt the village behind him, their fear, their hope, their need pressing against his back. He felt Mama Ise's breath beside him, thin, measured, counted. And for the first time, he stopped running. Not with his feet, but with his spirit. He turned toward the drum. The ground beneath his feet grew warm, as though the earth itself recognized the decision before his mouth did. Ayo lowered his head and nodded. The wind exhaled, because fate, once accepted, relaxes its grip. Mama Ise stepped closer. Her voice no longer trembled. It carried the calm of someone who has waited long enough. "Do not fight the pain," she said softly. "It is how the gods write." She placed her palm on his chest, and the mark appeared. Not carved, not burned, remembered. Light bloomed beneath his skin, thin at first, like dawn behind clouds. Symbols, ancient, deliberate, spread across his collarbone, down his arms, over his ribs. Each mark pulsed once, as if counting him. Ayo gasped, not from agony, from recognition, because his body knew these signs before his mind could name them. Mama Ise guided his hands. "Listen," she whispered, "not with your ears, with what they marked." His fingers touched the drum. The leather tightened, alive, waiting. He struck it once. The mark on his chest flared. Once. He struck again. The symbols along his arms answered, lighting in rhythm, each glow chasing the next, like a path being revealed. The sound that rose was not just a beat. It was a voice that had been silent too long. The village fell to its knees, not in worship, in recognition. Mama Ise stood behind him, steadying his shoulders, guiding the pace. "Slow," she murmured. "Power rushed will kill you." He breathed. He struck. The drum spoke again, and with every beat, the marks burned brighter, not consuming him, but claiming him. The ancestors did not cheer. They listened, because the gift had returned to the world, and the cost had finally found its bearer.